Park Chan-Wook is one of my all-time favourite directors. He started off as a film critic, and then decided that he could just make movies better than everyone else. And he was right. Shockingly, every movie he's ever made, Joint Security Area, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Oldboy, Lady Vengeance, I'm a Cyborg but That's Okay, The Handmaiden, even his segment in Free Extremes, they're all phenomenal, strikingly crafted, and just riveting. I choose to pretend that Stoker doesn't exist.
Hold still. This is not gonna hurt. Ow!
Oldboy in particular is a favourite of mine, and one day I'm going to make a massive video about it. But whenever I see people having a butcher's hook at old maid Park Chan-Wook, I always see the Vengeance trilogy and the Handmaiden discussed. But in the spirit of the spooky season, and because Decision to Leave has just been released, I want to talk about my second favourite movie of his, and his most explicitly horrific. Released in 2009, First is a lot of movie. In 2.5 hours, it's a romantic comedy, an erotic thriller, a thrilling mystery, a film about the legacy of Christianity in South Korea, horrific violence and gore, and a movie about vampires who In lesser hands, it might have come across as bloated, waterlogged, or even indulgent, but it just isn't. First is as lustful as it is satisfying, with enough blood for the adrenaline junkies and enough skin for the perverts. And it's me! I'm both! First is about a priest named Sung Yun, played excellently by Song Kang-ho. After being infected by a deadly virus and dying, he is resurrected with miraculously vampy symptoms. He can't go out in the sun, he acquires miraculous agility, he gains brilliant healing powers, which keep his disease at bay. But the cost of it is that he must indulge himself on human blood. What makes this character so interesting is his religious convictions. He has these sudden primal urges to slash and kill mere mortals, but he's been a priest for his entire life. The vampire is usually a creature against God. They tend not to like crucifixes, so that contradiction makes the movie really interesting. This isn't a typical vampire movie. That's part of the fun. It doesn't stick too hard and fast to the laws of vampirism, because said laws would be restrictive to this story, and this is about unleashing your desires. It's a movie about this clash between the priest satisfying his base urges, but also trying to adhere to his own moral code. And that's what elevates the movie for me. Like all of Park Chan-Wook's best movies, First is not only visually striking, but it's so emotionally resonant. I find that this director can only elevate a script. Consider for a moment Stoker. Terrible script, but it is beautifully composed. And that just makes it frustrating. First, on the other hand, has a layered script with pathos and meaning behind it. It is originally based on a short story by acclaimed writer Émile Zola, who was this scandalous Frenchman who tested the boundaries of 19th century Parisian society. Likewise, Park Chan-Wook and his longtime collaborator, Jung Seo-kyun, pushed the boundaries of violence and sex on screen. I would refrain from calling this film disturbing, but it is certainly confronting. Jung Seo-kyun has been an influential collaborator in his career, and she is responsible for this director's most feminine movies. And I think it's her deft touch that stops the source material from feeling sleazy or exploitative, because the conflict is rooted in emotion, not raw lust. First has the aura of a B-movie. A priest becomes a vampire and causes chaos, oh my! And it has an undeniable silliness to it. But it is lovingly written, with an interesting take on this age-old monster. It reminds me of that period in the 80s, where filmmakers were remaking 50s B-movies with modern special effects and ideas. Park Chan-Wook also elevates these silly ideas in the same way that the pulp nature of Tarantino's work is elevated by his clever writing. It's not the only thing that reminds me of Tarantino here, though. First feels like a movie unstuck in time. It feels like a 50s monster movie and an erotic thriller from the 80s, but it has that genre-savvy nature that only 2000s era Korea could make. That alone makes it a really interesting piece of cinema. Not many things like this get made anymore. Made doubly surprising with Park Chan-Wook's signature horniness. It's worth noting that his movies are full of repressed characters, maligned by circumstance and the expectations of their peers. And these characters express themselves through sex, showing us a haunting longing, a desperate need for connection and for romance. While there is this overwhelming horniness, it doesn't feel gratuitous at all. You see just as much of Song Kang-ho as you do the leading lady, Kim Ok-vin. As a director, he's always struggled with gaze, especially with The Handmaiden, but First feels freeing, the supernatural attributes allowing the characters to unleash their desires in all of their gory glory. I do my best to keep these videos light on spoilers, because this is a recommendation first and foremost, but I do want to talk about some of the plot elements that I really liked, so upgrade that minor spoiler warning to about a medium. Kim Ok-vin is a great actress in her own right. She's in a good action movie called The Villainess. It's kind of like John Wick with a feminine twist. And it's wild that she can keep pace with Song Kang-ho. She plays this repressed young woman named Tae-ju. She's married to the priest's best friend. The husband is chronically ill. He's potentially a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. And Kim Ok-vin has to look after him as a kind of debt to this family she was forced to marry into. She hates them and constantly crashes with Lady Ra, her mother-in-law. Her burgeoning relationship with the priest is awkward, but beneficial to both of them. They feel as equals in their relationship, and they explore forbidden taboos together. Both actors here are daring, and their bravery has to be commended. The eroticism is vulnerable and awkward. And much like many first relationships, these two characters aren't exactly good for each other. But the excitement of it all just sweeps you away, and after a murder plot goes wrong, the priest brings Tae-ju back to life. First is a slow build. It really takes its time setting up all the pieces, and some people might lose patience with it. But I think the pacing is perfect, and as the twists and turns begin to play out, you viscerally feel them. You feel the stakes of every action, even when the two main characters are immortal. You care for these two, you're invested in their relationship, even as they become corrupted by their lust. The priest, even as he becomes more vampiric, still has a lingering moral code, and it falls to him to attempt to control the monster he created. And you should watch it first, because it's just the best vampire movie ever made. Thank you for watching. Also, this film has the first penis in all of Korean cinema. Song Kang-ho hangs dong. That's the whole video. That's the reason why I made this. Okay, bye!